Katrina, welcome to Tech Recruitment Podcast. I'm so excited that you are joining us because you are on a mission to help companies fix recruitment and candidate experience, right? You even wrote
Yeah.
a book called Robot Proof Recruiters. So that's very cool. And I'm just interested in learning more about how can recruiters learn,
hmm
improve the experience. And before we dive deeper, why don't
Yeah.
you tell us, based on your experience, what is the biggest problem actually out there when it comes to recruiting?
Yeah. Oh, it was funny because actually I realized it writing the Robot Proof Recruiter, which I did say I would shamelessly plug because I
Hmm.
did donate my royalties to charity. So please buy five. When I was writing it, I realized everything came down to chapter five. And chapter five is all about the intake, the job brief, kickoff call. I'm going to call it intake. Okay. But whatever you want to call that 45 minutes, hopefully more, but that you get to spend talking to the manager about what they're looking to recruit. It all came down to that call. And I realized how rare it is to actually have a proper call. And if you don't have it, then the whole process gets messed up because you're messing people around. You don't really know what you're looking for. Your outreach is a mess and all this kind of stuff. And what happens is people then go to the internet and start nattering because there's 5 billion people on the internet of a global population of 8 billion. That is a lot of people making a lot of noise. And they're just going to write their opinion of you, the company, the hiring process online. But actually, if you could get that part right and really have a proper meeting, ask the tough questions, really know what you're doing, get the information out of the manager's head, then the whole process is so much better. It's better for everybody,
Mm.
obviously yourself, but most importantly, it's better for the manager and it's better for the poor person going through the recruitment process. And it just gets so little focus.
Yeah.
And I said before we came on it, it's like all we're getting now is all this noise about technology and use AI, use AI. And, they want to replace recruiters. They want to cut costs. If you haven't read it, Johan Harry's book, Stolen Focus, talks about this particularly in the last chapter. They do want, it's all about profit, right? It's all about shareholders. And so they do want to replace us with technology, but they can't because the intake, they're just never going to be able to do an intake with AI ever.
Mm.
But you've got to prove that you can do it better, basically, because it comes down to asking the tough questions and using this brain to ask
Mm.
these amazing questions. But particularly at the moment, I think it's almost more important, but it gets so little focus.
Mm.
There's just focus on, oh, let's use this here to make this. And I'm like, oh, please, can we just get the intake right?
Yeah, yeah, it's,
But,
it's just, yeah, it's just so true now when you mention it, and I
mm,
kind of go through some of our recent clients at the Global Talent Hub. I also kind of
mm,
think it's really the essential part in the
hmm
recruitment flow. Interesting. And
yeah. But it
what
gets
should
so little focus, doesn't
yeah,
it? You
yeah,
get you
yeah,
get
yeah,
managers who don't want to talk to you, or for those who are on the agency, they can't get to
mm,
the manager
yeah,
because they've either got to go through an internal TA or HR person, or there's some other barrier. And it's like if you cannot have that conversation, how
yeah.
can you possibly be of service to that company? How can you possibly fill that role properly?
Yeah, yeah. So often the
Yeah.
HR serves as the gatekeeper, right? So
hmm
some folks working in staffing agencies, they may not have the chance to have the intake call.
hmm
So what would you suggest in such cases?
Your bosses mightn't like this very much, but I wouldn't work on the role.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I personally wouldn't waste my time, but then I'm older. I've been around a while. I've been in the industry for 20 years. I have that healthy level of skepticism that they're just making it too hard. So
Hmm.
I would be asking for an open level of communication with the manager who is hiring for the role. And it's because I work with a lot of in-house recruiters and a lot of talent acquisition teams, let alone HR, who have a different skill set, and I know that they're often not asking the questions I would want to be asking. And I'm happy to share a few of those with you in a sec. So I would be asking for that. Even if they're only on the call, come and join the call. Let me teach you how to do an intake.
Hmm.
Oh, well, could be better at it. Let's have this call together because what I want to do is I want to save your manager hours of time.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
want them to feel reassured this is something I've taken off their plate and they can just relax. I want to get their commitment that if
Hmm.
I'm going to find them these people, that they are going to make space to interview them. because these managers are seriously busy. They're
mm,
stressed. They're down a person. They've got their own boss giving them hassle. They've probably got a project they need to deliver that this person is critical to. Their own team will be kicking off because it's down people. They're all getting overworked. There's probably flight risks in the team. So it's really crucial to them, but they don't have time. Like, oh, let
mm,
alone all their admin, So it's like you've got to get through to the manager and say, right, I can help you with this, but we're going to partner and I'm going to need actual time. You've got to get that commitment in that call. And that's
mm,
why it's so important. So I would be pushing for that.
mm, mm.
Um,
It's
and sometimes you've got to walk away. And
mhm,
that's tough when you as an agency recruiter have your own service level agreements. You've got your own team leader breathing down your neck or your boss breathing down your neck. But
yeah.
it's like, otherwise you're just throwing mud and hoping something sticks.
You don't want to waste time as a recruiter. But
Yep.
what we just saw happening just a few months ago
Mm,
was that there was a manager, there was an
mm-hmm.
internal recruiter,
Yeah.
the HR kind of
Mm-hmm.
professional in house, who was serving as the gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And the manager, of course, was under pressure, as you mentioned. The
Yeah.
person needed the people to start quickly, but we couldn't just set a meeting with the
Mm-hmm.
manager to
Yeah.
discuss the strategy or to reframe the role just because of the
Mm-hmm.
gatekeeper. So, do you have any favorite kind of door openers, or how to kind of bypass the gatekeeper, the HR?
Yeah. It's a tough one, right? Because you kind of
Mm,
want to, you don't want to offend them
mhm,
as well by basically, because you know that they're not going to ask the questions you want to ask,
yeah.
but you don't want to offend them. So it's quite hard. So you have to be
Mm,
quite diplomatic. And it's sort of like, were you able to sit down with the manager and get a great briefing? Is there a project reliant on this? So you start asking questions you're pretty confident they won't have asked,
mhm,
because it's really rare. What so often happens is the manager pulls out the job description from the bottom drawer, and it
yeah.
is obviously one doesn't really do that anymore, but just go with it. And it's an old one, and it's what it was Mikhail. Mikhail's leaving, so
Mhm,
it's replacing you exactly. But actually, you've gained skills over the time you've been there, and going forward, they need somebody else. But what's happening is they're looking backwards, and it's
mhm,
unlikely. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's unlikely that the internal person has said, "Well, so." Looking forward, how do you know? This is my favorite question. How do you know at the end of 12 months you've hired the right person?
mm,
They probably won't have asked that question. Now, you might not want to give that away because you want to save that for your manager, but it'd be like, well, is there a project that this matters to you? Is this person coming to deliver a project? You're trying to work out how much they've drilled.
mhm,
Actually, maybe without asking them. Asking them could be quite offensive. So just ask some tough questions. And so that they start going, oh gosh, I don't know. Can I find out? I'm going, yeah, great. But if you're going to go and talk to them, can I just jump on that call with you? Please, I want to provide a proper service here. If I can hear it firsthand and we're together on that call, you're going to hear one thing, I'm going to hear another thing. And then we can go to, when I go to the candidates, I know that I'm saying all the right stuff. So that's
mm,
one way. Actually, that would work quite well.
mhm,
Is there a project reliant on this? Does the manager have any flight risks in the team? Who's currently filling in that role? There's always what's the cost?
mhm,
This scares. It's amazing how this really scares people. Like, what's the cost? So whether it's the manager has a promotion potentially based on getting this person into the team and delivering a project, it could be there's a cost to the bottom line that
mhm,
they need this person in, they're not delivering, it's 5,000 euros a day that they're losing. Like, there could be an actual financial cost. So sometimes asking some questions they don't expect, they're
mhm,
likely to go, oof, I don't know, let me
yeah,
find out. Would it be okay, could we do this call together? You're going to
mm,
hear one thing, I'm going to hear another thing. Then we'll really know that we're properly partnering on this, so I can save you all so much time and
yeah,
hassle.
mm,
And you definitely want to say this to the internal person and make sure that the reputation of the company stands and the candidate experience is really good, because they really care about that. And
mm,
just as an aside, a manager has no idea what candidate experience is. They don't care, right? They do care about their reputation and they care about the ability to hire and they care about the company's reputation, but they don't know what candidate experience means
mhm.
mostly. There'll be 1% that probably do. So, just watch your terminology as well.
Mhm.
The internal TA person will probably know those words. So that could
That's
that could work. I like that. That was on the fly.
yeah, yeah, that was a good one, very good one,
No
with
pressure.
the with the joint meeting, like, can
Yeah.
I join the meeting with you? So, you organize it and
Because
I'll be
you'll hear
there this
something and
time.
I'll hear something, then we can
Mhm,
compare notes and make sure that we're partnering together going forward. You've got to make it of benefit to the person.
mhm,
So
mhm,
what's the
mhm.
benefit to the HR person?
Yeah.
Well, I might hear something you didn't hear and we can compare notes, and I'll
Mhm,
save you time. You don't have to then come back to me and feedback. Let's just do it all together.
mhm. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
one. I
that
like
works
this,
too. That works too. Oh my
yeah.
God, I'm on fire.
Let's continue. I like
He
this
didn't
idea.
pre-warn me about this question, by the way. Anyone listening? There was no pre-warning.
Well, you're such an expert, you don't need any, kind of
Hopefully.
questions
Oh.
in advance. But, no, I'm just kind of thinking about this,
Mm,
concept of partnership, right? We are
yeah,
servicing a client and we are partnering,
yeah,
to improve the candidate experience and also the, credibility. That's,
yeah.
very nice. Often, what I've seen is that the HR just kind of doesn't want to cooperate because of, I don't know, ego, or maybe they,
Mm,
kind of see us, the agency as an enemy, not the kind of a
uh,
partner. So,
yeah. And do you know what? It really depends.
mhm,
So I know there's a lot of HR recruiters in Europe, and actually
mhm,
they're what I would call a talent acquisition professional. So there are people who literally recruitment is their job. That's what they
mhm,
do,
yeah,
and it's where they fit. If they're pure HR, you particularly see this here in the UK and in the US, where somebody is pure HR. So really, they're meant to be about developing the people, and they do a lot of. I really don't know what HR does. What do they do? They tell people off. They do the firing bit as well, don't they? They obviously do rewards, they do pay, all that kind of stuff.
mhm,
Those professionals don't usually like recruitment. They
mhm,
don't like talent acquisition. The reason I see this happen is you have the likes of the CIPD and SHRM in the US, and all of the HR events. Where's recruitment?
mhm,
So often it's an afterthought.
mhm,
So they do all of these modules about all of the lovely stuff that HR does and forget this really incredibly important role. So even within HR itself, you can get friction between
mhm,
HR and talent acquisition people.
mhm,
Um, and then that just goes worse when it goes outside, which is crazy because if the company recruits better people, HR doesn't need performance management. That's what I was looking for. HR doesn't have to do as much performance management and can do the gorgeous stuff of
mhm,
developing people, of being a proper business partner, of knowing, oh, someone sitting over here would be great over here in this role, and actually they'd like an internal move, and retaining people.
mhm,
But there's this weird friction that goes on, and it has a lot to do with the traditional HR hate recruitment. Full stop. End of story. If they have to do it, they don't like doing it.
mhm,
So
yeah,
it's almost you need to know which one you're partnering with as an external recruiter. And I think that there would be, if you can really reinforce to them that you're just going to take this problem away. Yeah,
mhm,
it's like, I get it. Most people don't like doing this. It's a really tough thing to do. The more time you can give me at the beginning of the process to get everything in place, the less time you're going to have to focus on recruitment because I
yeah,
can take this. I'm a safe pair of hands and take
yeah,
this off your plate. But it's find out what you're dealing with.
mhm, mhm,
But there are talent acquisition professionals, and they get it because they've often come in from agency anyway, rather than up the pure HR route. And they sometimes you get the us and them, but most of the time they understand that they can't fill all the roles, so that
mhm,
they're there to partner.
yeah,
But again, I think it's just the reassurance all the time of they don't want they don't want to think you're just after your fee.
mhm,
And the
mhm,
more that you can reassure them that, be it from recommendations from current clients and your behavior, and that you're there to partner them and just to take that workload off them and to work
mhm,
with them. Like, and you keep saying that from the beginning.
mhm,
Don't say anything like trust me, because no one's going to trust you until you've proved your weight in gold. But, I want to partner with you to
mhm,
fill this. We've got to work together to make it as smooth a process as possible so that you're saving time, money, and hassle. The hiring manager is saving time, money, and hassle. Ultimately, yes, that will save you, but don't say that. They don't care.
Yeah.
So
I
it's,
like this. Yeah, I like this language of kind of we are in this together. We are helping you.
yeah,
I was,
yeah.
now when you mentioned the fees, I was at some point even thinking whether these some of these people, HR, are not kind of jealous because they see the commissions that external recruiters earn, right? And yeah, like because sometimes I mean,
I
like
don't know.
hey, we
I
are
don't
here.
think so.
I don't know because it's like, hey, we are here to help you. You don't have to go to LinkedIn to message all these people. Just do whatever else you enjoy. But still, they kind of do it anyway, and they kind of compete with external recruiters. I mean, that's my
Well,
experience with a
again,
few.
that's
I'm not
all.
saying everyone is like that.
I guess that all depends on how they've established the function. I mean, if it is an
Hmm.
internal talent acquisition function, yes, they're going to be wanting to cut the cost of
Hmm.
using an agency. But you have to be a certain size company to do that. And there's a massive, it's really, I found this funny in my agency days. There was always this push to go for the corporates. It's the SMEs that can't, they don't have the time or the budget to have an internal recruiter. So
Hmm.
that's actually the space that's probably the easiest to service, to be fair, that kind of
Hmm.
mid-sized company.
Hmm.
And there's thousands of them. So
Hmm.
that's a huge marketplace, which is often weirdly avoided.
Hmm.
But actually, they're the best one where it's like if you can get that relationship, you'll have no problems being able to get to the managers
Hmm.
and have that partnership going
Hmm.
either, rather than hitting the bigger the company, the more likely they start having a talent acquisition function.
Hmm.
Startups often have them as well. But
Hmm.
again, there'll be specialist roles.
Hmm.
I mean, actually, this is a different, we weren't going to talk about this, but I'll go there. If I was going to be a agency recruiter again, which I'm never going to be, but if I was, I would start with the candidate. I would become the go-to person in that specific piece of technology that everybody knew who I was, and I would only represent those people and those jobs, and then I would sell my expertise that way.
Hmm.
Like I would have a network of whichever technology is currently on trend,
Hmm.
and I would be very careful to make sure that the technology stayed on trend because back in the day, COBOL, for example, which totally ages myself, and some people would be like, "What?" But people who were really focused on that suddenly couldn't place anybody. So
Hmm.
that would be how I would go as well. Like I'm genuinely representing. And by the way, stop. If anyone's doing this, please don't pitch in fake CVs. Don't pitch in a CV of somebody that's actually a legitimate CV, but the person's not looking for a job. Because the second that the company turns around and says, yes, I'd like an interview with that person, and then you go, oh, they're not available. They're like, yeah, well, so they lied.
Hmm.
So please don't do that.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
just don't start with a lie.
Yeah.
Start with a genuine, like,
And it's
this is I'm only an expert in this. I see that you recruit this occasionally.
mm,
This is all I do. And
mhm,
then those people know you and respect you, and they'll open doors for you at their own companies. So
yeah. And it's great that you mentioned this because lots of people who are kind of they reach certain
mm,
stage of their career, they would like to get a client or more clients to work
hmm
for, and they just kind of don't know how to open the doors. So
your
now,
candidates, your very happy
mhm,
candidates,
mhm,
the people that you have treated with incredible respect for their
mhm,
irreplaceable time.
mhm,
The time that you're listening
mhm,
to this now, you are never getting it back.
mhm,
It's gone. Like it's the one thing that it's finite and we all lose. Even my dog's agreeing if you just heard him kick off. Um, right on cue. But it's that, when we have people go in for interviews or they apply and we don't respond to them, people remember this
mhm,
ghosting business that's just out of control. And honestly, I don't care if candidates ghost you. When we as recruiters ghost people, applicants especially, they are left down or depressed.
mhm,
If you have a look at end-ghosting.com, you can see more about that. So it's getting back to people, it's closing them, it's treating them with respect. It's delivering that negative news. It's even saying, I don't have any news. Like if you went, I haven't heard back from the company, I'm just letting you know I'm still chasing.
mhm,
That's news to somebody that is going through this recruitment process. So if you're treating everybody with great respect, they're going to really take care of you. So
mhm,
going back to when I was last recruiting, which has been a while, let's be honest, in agency, but my contractors loved me because if they were ever not paid, oh my gosh, my poor accounts department, I let rip. Like it was like they hadn't paid me. I cared. And therefore they'd go get rate increases, which include an agency increase. They'd never cut mine. And they would introduce me into other companies.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd go and go, you've got to work with Katrina. She's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you've got to respect people. But also just never forget that person that you go, they're going to end up somewhere and they will never forget how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason to stop
That's a good one.
incessant
That's a good one.
ghosting. I know your friends do that. I know dates do that. I know that kind of stuff. But in the professional world, stop it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stop it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if
Ghost rant. I feel good. I got it out.
mhm. Nice, nice. If someone chooses a niche within the IT
Yeah.
space, let's say front end developers or back end
Even more
Java
important to treat them well. Yep.
developers,
Sorry.
yeah. So they kind of start building this talent pool of
Yeah.
the IT professionals, and then
Yeah.
what? Then would you reach out to these SMEs, some talent acquisition specialists or HR generalists or head of HR, and it's like, hey, I have here a list of 300 front end developers, or what? What will you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's one way. And obviously asking your candidates once you've built trust with them. So
Mm-hmm.
you could do things like you could run meetups. I mean, again, this is all if your agency is going to allow you to do this. If you're running your own business, you've got to have a runway of cash that's going to allow you to do this. This isn't a quick win. Some will be still like get on the phone, cold call. But assuming that you've got the leeway to do this, it's then I would be running events, things like that, getting people to come to an event, throw on some pizza, have a learning experience. Again, you're going to become trusted. People will just start opening doors for you. Are any of you hiring? Can you please drop my name if you are? And then at the same time, making that approach, getting in touch with companies and saying, like, this is all I do. We do have a pool of people. We run events. Like, you show that you're investing in these people as well. And growth opportunities. So, I mean, who doesn't love a meetup once a month with some pizza and some learning? Doesn't cost very much. So, there's options like that. I mean, you could even get sponsors involved with that, to be honest. So there's that. I mean, that's how I would go about it. But it's not a quick win. It's not gonna open doors really swiftly. But it's staying in your lane as well. And I think that matters. I'm thinking of like Mark Hopkins, who does engineering recruitment here in the UK, but proper engineering as opposed to software engineering. And he's known, that's all he talks about. And he offers so much advice. He does videos that are how to write a job description, what happens if you have this situation, and just not job description, how to write a CV. He shares all of this information for candidates. And so they love him and they go to him. He has an amazing network. And he'll ask an open question on LinkedIn and all his engineering people are replying and adding comments. So
that's a very, very nice example. Okay, well, so coming back to the candidate experience,
yes,
I'm just kind of thinking now about AI. It's the trending thing out there. So do you think AI will improve the experience of candidates, or it will worsen it, or what's going to happen?
No, I think that it'll get used in all of the wrong places. I mean, the reason I wrote the Robot Proof Recruiter, brilliant book, by the way, about 80 plus of your peers all contributed. So please buy 5. The reason I wrote it was the HR tech vendors in 2018 was saying that they could replace you. Obviously, they have failed because you're still here 5 years later. But they were saying, recruiters, they can all be replaced. And now we've got AI. And it's the same. It's we can replace. Look, the AI technology is as biased as we are biased. It has been created by people who are biased. So, for example, if you're using it for an interviewing tool and thinking that it's not being biased, it's already been proven to be biased. There's already case examples that I cannot think of off the top of my head, but there are. Google it. And I talked about it in the book. There's one that they use video technology. And it was also like there's actually another website that people have to go to learn how to get around this technology to get hired. Like, how is that a good candidate experience? But where I love it is like MetaView's intake meeting notes and interview notes. Fantastic. You've currently got something here that's, which would be hilarious because it's Otter and it doesn't like my Australian accent, but you're using something to take notes. Fantastic. I have no problems with that. When it's used as a barrier between the person who needs a job and you who has a job, then I have a problem with it. And that's all we've done. We've just piled up technology, and companies are the worst for it. the application process where there's just layer upon layer upon layer. So this is my issue with it. And if you are using it to create job descriptions and you're using it to create messages that you're sending to people, you need to not accept what it first spits out. You need to keep, particularly things like ChatGPT, you need to keep prompting it and prompting it and prompting it to get something that sounds genuine and is legitimate and is accurate. Because people aren't stupid. They're going to know if they're getting the same message. The reason I have such a concern about this is when LinkedIn introduced templates and everybody started sending the same template, and all of these candidates, they're getting from a big LinkedIn recruiter to keyword search and the same message. I see that you're a person with these skills and we're currently looking to hire them. I'm like, who cares? Like, you don't start a message with the I. Nobody cares, right? Your experience here is a great match for what we usually recruit for. What are your next steps? What are you doing next? Really general question would get a better response. But they'll see it. They'll see the same. And this is my problem. People are just trying to cut the wrong corners to save time. And it's like, really think about where you're placing it. Really step back. Step through the experience. Is there something else we can do? Is there duplication that we can take out with it? Or are we asking candidates they can't even apply to our agency on their mobile phone, for example? And I still see that. Why are we asking for more than a phone number, an email address, their name and a CV attached? Why are we asking them to copy and paste? Just really think about it. So
that's a good one. Yeah. So you mentioned the intake as the most important, then the candidate engagement, right? That cannot be replaced by AI.
No, it can't, because I want you to ask those questions. So my favorite, which I alluded to before, how will you know at the end of 12 months you've hired the right person? Steve Levy has another one that's really great. It's just in chapter 5, which is that, what problem are they coming in to fix? What this does is it makes them look forward. So I go, how will you know you've hired the right person at the end of 12 months? Oh gosh, please make sure they've got customer facing skills. Mikhail had none. It was dreadful, right? The client was so upset, right? That kind of a thing. They will say something that is not on the job description because they don't like writing the job description. Right. You then take that information and you use that in your messaging and your advertisements. And you say, we're looking for someone to come in and fix this problem. We're delivering this project. You want to be part of it? Like, you take that amazing thing they said that is not vanilla. It is really unique to that company and that role, and you use it in all of your messaging. You'll get people's attention as well. Remembering 5 billion people on the internet, a lot of noise.
I like how simple you make it.
It is simple.
It is at the end of the day. It is simple. So that's.
But people are scared of these questions. If you're talking to a manager and you can say, particularly if you've got to know the manager, and you can ask things like, what's the cost every day this role is open? And they're like, oh gosh, if it's costing us 5,000 euros, it's so bad. We really need this person. And then you say, okay, I'm going to get you CVs on Friday. Can you come back to me on Tuesday? And we'll start scheduling interviews for Thursday. And then they don't come back on Tuesday. So you message them on Tuesday afternoon and go, you said you'd come back. Just remember, this is 5,000 euros a day. And they'll go, oh God, that's right. And they'll come back to you. Rather than you haven't come back to me, you're like agreeing all the time. You can reiterate what they said. But even in the cost of the importance of the project, you said you'd come back to me on Tuesday, and I know the deadline for the project's the end of the month. If you don't come back to me by tomorrow morning, I'm going to struggle to get the interviews in, remembering notice periods. We've got to get this person by the end of the month. So if you don't know what the cost is, it gets really tough. And it's I don't know why. Well, actually, to be honest, I'm not sure I was ever taught how to do a great intake. To be fair, I realized this writing the book, but I've been around a bit longer since then. But that I don't know why we're not taught this enough, just how critical it is. Because if you can, and if you're struggling to get them on the phone, so if you can actually access your manager and they won't give you the call, just say, the more time you give me at the beginning, the more time I can save you. And you can make it quantifiable because you've got experience. You've recruited before, potentially. and be able to say, like, if you give me the 45 minutes at the beginning, I'm going to save you 15 hours, like from not interviewing the wrong people. You're going to interview fewer people, but they'll be the right people, and
That's a good one.
and you'll know it when you see it.
Yeah,
So
great.
they, your job is to get them to articulate what is in here that they're not
Mhm.
getting out. So
Mm-hmm. Nice, nice. I like how we
yeah,
are kind of transitioning from the candidate experience to hiring manager experience and also to recruiter experience, right? Because at the
yeah,
end of the day, if you are able to get all the information from the hiring manager, then also your experience as a recruiter will improve.
yeah.
And
But
if it's
don't ever
better,
say
then
that. Like,
right.
don't ever go, hey, if you give me this stuff, my life's going to be easier, because they don't care.
Of course, of
They only
course.
care what matters to them, what's in it for
Yes.
them. And actually think about that. Every time you open a message or you open an invite to connect, in your head, you're going, what do you want? Like, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because you just want to know what's in it for you. And
Mm-hmm.
so think about that as well. Like, if you can take that intake information and use it in the message you send out, and in the invites to connect and all those kinds of things, people will be like, ah, that's what they want. Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
yeah,
Awesome.
they're all interact. But if we
Yeah.
got the intake right, the candidate
Mhm.
experience will be right.
Well, I could listen to your advice for the next 2 hours, and probably we
Or
should
you could
record
just,
some. Oh, book the yeah. There is a book
yeah.
that
There's
describes
another
that.
one coming as well. As
Yeah.
I will get it out next year. I'm writing one for the managers
Oh,
as
nice,
well. Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, before we wrap it up, is there
Mm.
any kind of last final advice that you would like to give to recruiters who may be struggling with the job? You know, now in the tech industry, there was a little kind of
Oh, you've had fun,
downturn.
haven't you? There was a lot of over hiring and an over firing, over
Right.
firing, over hiring, over firing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
It
we've seen.
comes in waves. So
Yeah. Well, 2020 they didn't. They let go. Actually, mentioned it was more TA that got let go, and there was a lot of over hiring, and it was
mhm,
dead obvious that was happening. To be fair, if you
mm,
sort of weren't in the industry in it, you could see it was like, what are you doing? Why are you all hiring so much?
yeah,
So I remember hearing an economist in 2020 say, in 2024 this will all balance out. So I do see that
mhm,
it's going to come right next year. I'm seeing a lot of directors of TA and heads of TA getting hired, which is always a great sign that things are starting to
mhm,
even out. So if you've got through 2023, give yourself a huge pat on the back and just like, thank God, have a rest, because I do think it will be better next year. But just remember that there will be companies believing that AI, oh, I'm trying not to swear, bubble of BS that is going on, and
mhm,
genuinely thinking that you can be replaced by technology. How you counter that is to be always knowing your value and
mhm,
understanding it is the human side of what we do. We are people recruiting people for other people,
mhm,
and that the product is a human being, and the product doesn't have to say yes. And that's
yeah,
another reason the product, no one said, it's actually quite funny when all of these companies are going on about, oh, we can just replace recruiters with AI. Do candidates want to give their career to AI? Yeah, no, they don't.
mm,
They really don't. There might be a very small minority who do, but the vast majority of professionals do not want to have their career trusted to a robot, right? They want to talk to a human being who knows their stuff. So make sure you know your stuff, show your value, be able to get that information from the manager, get the information from the candidates. That's human stuff. And
awesome,
and and then you can't be replaced. There's a lot of
awesome.
information in the robot proof recruit about that, to
Well,
be
definitely. Then
fair.
where can people find the book? Is it on Amazon?
Amazon, it's everywhere. You can buy it from the big
Mm,
giant, or you can shop
mhm,
elsewhere. If you just type in the robot proof recruiter, it'll come
mhm.
up.
Awesome,
Um,
awesome.
and
Okay.
I'm writing the book I'm writing is sort of complements that. It will be for the managers themselves, the hiring
Mhm.
managers, about what they can do in the intake to make your life better. It is literally focused on the intake,
Oh, wow.
because then they could articulate what they want better. So yeah, conquer hiring. It should be out next year. I need to
Awesome.
finish writing it first.
Good. Fingers crossed. Awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
cool.
Well, then,
Thank
thanks a
you.
lot for sharing all these insights. I'm
You're
looking
welcome.
forward to reading the book and also the next one, this
Thank
coming
you.
up.
Hmm.
So I'll include in the show notes the link also to your LinkedIn
Thank
profile
you.
so that people can connect with you.
Brilliant. Thanks very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you. Thanks. Have a wonderful day. Cool, cool. So that was great.